February 26, 1995. A 28-year-old trader in Singapore sends a fax to his boss in London. It's 3 sentences long. The message is simple: "I'm sorry. The losses are real. I've been hiding them for years." Then he disappears. When auditors finally access his secret account, they find losses of $1.3 billion. This is more than double the entire capital of Barings Bank, a 233-year-old institution that had financed the Napoleonic Wars, funded the Louisiana Purchase, and served the Queen of England. The bank that had survived every crisis for over 2 centuries is instantly bankrupt. One trader. One account. $1.3 billion. Gone. Here's what makes this story so darkly hilarious. Nick Leeson wasn't some financial genius. He wasn't a quantitative wizard with advanced degrees. He was a back-office clerk who got promoted to trader because Barings needed someone in Singapore who understood settlements. His job was supposed to be boring arbitrage, buying futures on one exchange and selling them on another for tiny, risk-free profits. Instead, he was making massive, unauthorized bets on the Japanese stock market. And when those bets went wrong, he didn't cut his losses. He doubled down. Then doubled down again. Then kept doubling down until he'd bet more than the entire bank was worth. The best part? He wasn't even good at trading. Every strategy he tried failed. He lost money consistently for years. But he was very good at one thing: hiding those losses from his bosses in London, who apparently never bothered to check what their star trader was actually doing. Barings Bank collapsed not because of sophisticated fraud or complex financial engineering. It collapsed because a mediocre trader was allowed to report to himself, audit his own trades, and conceal losses in an account literally numbered 88888, which in Chinese culture is considered lucky. Management never noticed that their risk management system had a massive hole. They never questioned why their Singapore office was supposedly making huge profits. And when it all fell apart, it fell apart so fast that by the time management realized what had happened, the bank was already dead. The whole thing was over in 72 hours. A 2-century-old institution destroyed by one mediocre trader in a weekend. Nick Leeson is the face of this disaster, but calling him a criminal mastermind gives him too much credit. He was 28 years old, the son of a plasterer from London, with no university degree. He'd started at Morgan Stanley in the back-office processing trades. Then he moved to Barings in settlements, the unglamorous work of making sure trades are recorded correctly. In 1992, Barings sent Leeson to Singapore to set up futures trading operations. He was given dual roles: head trader and head of settlements. This is like making someone both the casino cashier and the guy who counts the money at the end of the night. It's an obvious conflict of interest. But Barings did it anyway to save money. Leeson's job was supposed to be simple arbitrage between the Singapore and Osaka exchanges. Low risk, low reward, virtually impossible to lose money at. But he started making unauthorized directional bets on the Japanese stock market. When those bets lost money, the fraud began. Peter Baring was the chairman, a member of the aristocratic Baring family that had run the bank for generations. He reportedly said that it takes 5 minutes to understand derivatives, but a lifetime to understand the risks. Unfortunately, he and his executive team never even got to the 5-minute mark. They didn't understand what Leeson was doing, didn't verify his profits, and didn't implement basic controls. Ron Baker was head of Financial Products Group at Barings and technically Leeson's boss. He loved that Singapore was reporting huge profits. Leeson was supposedly making millions in risk-free arbitrage, which seemed too good to be true. It was. But Baker never dug into the details, never questioned the numbers, never verified what was actually happening. The final character is account 88888. Leeson created this account supposedly for client errors. But he used it to hide his losses. Every time a bet went wrong, he'd dump the loss into 88888. On paper, his trading account looked profitable. The losses were invisible. Barings Bank was founded in 1762. It was old money, establishment, aristocratic British banking. The bank had financed governments and wars. They'd helped fund the British effort against Napoleon. They'd financed the Louisiana Purchase for the United States. The Queen of England was a client. This was British financial history incarnate. But by the 1990s, traditional banking was boring. The real money was in derivatives trading. Futures, options, swaps were generating enormous profits at investment banks. Barings wanted in on that action. The problem was that Barings management didn't really understand derivatives. They were trained in traditional banking, understanding loans and bonds. But futures markets, margin calls, option strategies were new territory. Yet they pushed into these markets because that's where the profits were. Singapore in the early 90s was becoming a major financial center. The Singapore International Monetary Exchange was growing rapidly. Asian markets were booming. Having a presence there made strategic sense. So they sent Leeson, who understood both trading and settlements, to set up operations. And they gave him dual responsibility, violating every rule of risk management. Trading should never report to itself. The people executing trades should never be the same people verifying those trades. It's basic internal controls. But Barings did it anyway. The culture at Barings was that London headquarters trusted their offices. They didn't micromanage. They gave people autonomy. This works fine when everyone is competent and honest. It's catastrophic when someone is neither. Leeson started trading in 1992. Initially, he probably was doing legitimate arbitrage. But at some point, he started taking directional positions. Maybe he thought he could make bigger profits. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he didn't understand the risks. When those directional bets lost money, Leeson faced a choice: admit the losses and probably get fired, or hide them and hope to trade his way back to break even. He chose to hide them in account 88888. This is where the fraud became systematic. Every loss went into the secret account. Every profitable trade was recorded in his main trading account. Over time, his official account looked incredibly successful while the secret account filled with hidden losses. London loved the results. Leeson was supposedly generating millions in profits from risk-free arbitrage. He became a star. The Singapore office was contributing a significant portion of Barings' entire profits. Management was thrilled. Nobody asked the obvious question: how is risk-free arbitrage generating this much profit? Arbitrage, by definition, produces tiny returns. You're not taking risks, so you shouldn't make huge money. But Leeson was reporting both low risk and high returns, which is mathematically implausible. Nobody checked because they didn't want to know. The profits looked good. Bonuses were flowing. Why dig deeper and possibly find problems? By early 1995, Leeson's hidden losses in account 88888 had grown to hundreds of millions. But he kept trading, kept betting bigger, convinced he could recover the losses. This is the classic gambler's fallacy. One more bet and everything will be fine. On January 17, 1995, the Kobe earthquake hits Japan. The earthquake killed over 6,000 people and caused massive economic disruption. The Nikkei stock index plummeted. Leeson had massive positions betting that the Nikkei would stay stable or rise. The earthquake caused it to crash. His losses exploded overnight. A rational person would have cut losses and confessed. The losses were catastrophic but still potentially manageable for Barings. The bank could have survived if Leeson had stopped. But Leeson did the opposite. He doubled down. He started selling options, collecting premiums, hoping the market would stabilize. This strategy, called selling straddles, bets that the market won't move much. It generates income as long as the market stays calm. But if the market moves significantly, the losses are theoretically unlimited. It's like selling insurance on a house that's already on fire. But the Nikkei kept falling. Every day brought new losses. The options he'd sold were moving violently against him. He needed to post more margin, more collateral, to maintain his positions. By late February, Leeson was requesting hundreds of millions in additional margin from London. This should have triggered every alarm at headquarters. Why does a supposedly low-risk arbitrage operation need hundreds of millions in margin? But London kept sending the money. They trusted Leeson. They believed in Singapore. They didn't understand what the margin calls actually meant. The requests became more desperate. 50 million. Then 100 million. Then 200 million. Each time, London wired the money without investigating why it was needed. They assumed it was part of normal operations. By February 23, Leeson knew it was over. The losses were approaching $1 billion. There was no trading strategy that could recover this. There was no market movement that would save him. He'd destroyed the bank. He spent that day in the office, going through the motions, while internally panicking. That evening, he made his decision. He would run. On Friday, February 24, Leeson left his apartment early. He left a note for his wife Lisa to meet him at the airport. He went to his office, cleaned out his desk, and faxed his resignation to London. The fax was brief. "I'm sorry. The losses are real. I apologize for the problems I have caused." Then Nick and Lisa Leeson boarded a plane and fled Singapore. They flew to Kuala Lumpur, then to Borneo, wandering across Southeast Asia with no real plan except to avoid arrest. When London received Leeson's fax Friday morning, management didn't understand what he meant. What losses? How much? They sent people to Singapore to investigate. What they found when they accessed account 88888 was beyond their worst nightmares. The losses were $1.3 billion. Barings' entire capital was only $600 million. Leeson had lost more than twice what the bank was worth. The positions he'd taken were enormous. He'd been selling thousands of Nikkei futures contracts, selling thousands of options. The positions were so large they represented a significant portion of the entire open interest on the Singapore exchange. Unwinding them would move the market and generate additional losses. Over that weekend, February 25th and 26th, Barings entered its death spiral. The executive team worked frantically to find a solution. They contacted potential buyers. Could someone acquire Barings and assume the losses? They contacted the Bank of England. Would the central bank provide an emergency bailout? The Bank of England convened emergency meetings. Eddie George, the governor, had to make a decision. Barings was historic but not systemically important. It wasn't too big to fail. Letting it collapse wouldn't threaten the broader financial system. George made the call: no bailout. Barings would have to find a private sector solution or face bankruptcy. Potential buyers looked at the numbers and walked away. The losses were too large. The positions were too risky. Nobody wanted to touch Barings. On Sunday, February 26th, Barings Bank was declared insolvent. The Bank of England appointed administrators. A 233-year-old institution, a bank that had survived every financial crisis for over 2 centuries, was bankrupt. The news sent shockwaves through global financial markets. If Barings could collapse overnight, what other institutions were vulnerable? Markets opened Monday morning in turmoil. Eventually, ING, a Dutch banking group, bought Barings for £1 symbolic and assumed the liabilities. But the Barings name, the history, the prestige, was effectively gone. Meanwhile, Nick and Lisa Leeson were still running. They wandered through Southeast Asia for days. But on March 2nd, they flew to Germany, where Nick had a layover. At the Frankfurt airport, German police arrested him. Leeson fought extradition but eventually was sent back to Singapore. In December 1995, he pleaded guilty to fraud charges. He was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. He served 4.5 years before being released early for good behavior and health problems. After his release, Leeson wrote a book about his experiences called Rogue Trader. It became a bestseller and was adapted into a movie. He became a speaker on risk management. The irony of a man who destroyed a bank by ignoring risk management becoming a paid expert on risk management is almost too perfect. If you think Rogue Trader scandals ended with Nick Leeson, you haven't been paying attention. We've had multiple Barings-style disasters since then, proving that banks still haven't figured out basic internal controls. In 2008, Jérôme Kerviel at Societe Generale lost $7.2 billion through unauthorized trading. His methods were remarkably similar to Leeson: hide losses in fake accounts, keep doubling down, hope to trade back to break even. The losses were even bigger than Barings, but Societe Generale was large enough to survive. In 2011, Kweku Adobelai at UBS lost $2.3 billion through unauthorized trading. Again, the same pattern: exceed trading limits, hide losses, bet bigger to recover. Again, management failed to detect it until it was too late. In 2012, the London whale scandal at JPMorgan Chase saw Bruno Ixel lose $6 billion in derivatives positions that got too large to unwind. This wasn't even unauthorized trading. It was legal trading that went horribly wrong because the positions became too big. The common thread in all these disasters is that basic controls fail. Traders who should be monitored aren't. Risk limits that should be enforced aren't. And when someone is making money, even suspicious money, nobody wants to ask hard questions. The technology has improved since 1995. Banks have better risk management systems, better monitoring, better oversight. But they're also making bigger bets, using more leverage, operating in more markets. The scale of potential disasters has grown faster than the ability to prevent them. We also keep seeing the same personality types. Rogue traders aren't sophisticated criminals. They're usually mediocre traders who start losing money, hide it, then keep betting bigger hoping to recover. They're enabled by management that doesn't want to look too closely at profitable operations. The incentive structures haven't changed. Traders get huge bonuses for profits but don't personally suffer from losses beyond losing their job. This creates asymmetric risk-taking. Heads I win big, tails the bank loses big. The Barings collapse teaches 3 lessons that somehow never stick. First, internal controls exist for a reason. Separating trading from settlements isn't bureaucracy. It's basic fraud prevention. No trader should ever be able to hide their own losses. Yet we keep seeing scandals where traders have too much autonomy and insufficient oversight. Second, if something looks too good to be true, it is. Risk-free arbitrage doesn't generate massive profits. If someone is reporting both low risk and high returns, they're either lying about the risk or the returns. Management should have questioned Leeson's numbers years before the collapse. Third, culture matters more than systems. Barings had risk management policies. They just didn't enforce them. The systems were there. The culture of using those systems wasn't. Here's the depressing truth. We haven't fixed these problems because we don't want to. Effective oversight reduces profits. Strict controls slow down trading. Questioning star performers creates tension. So banks implement risk management to satisfy regulators, then create ways around those systems. Until the next rogue trader blows up. Then everyone acts shocked, promises reform, implements new controls, and gradually relaxes them once the scandal fades. The next Barings is probably happening right now. Somewhere, a trader is hiding losses, betting bigger, hoping to recover. Somewhere, management is ignoring warning signs because the profits look good. If this video made you realize that bank risk management is often more theater than substance, share it. Because the more people who understand how easily these controls fail, the more pressure there might be for actual reform. Subscribe for more deep dives into financial disasters caused by incompetence and greed. Nick Leeson destroyed Britain's oldest bank because nobody bothered to check his work. We're still waiting for banks to learn that lesson.